Hello, and welcome. It's good to have you here sharing this quiet moment. Wherever you are, whatever kind of day you've had, let's just let it all go for a little while. Find a comfortable place to sit or to lie down. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. Let's begin by taking a slow, deep breath. Breathe in and feel the air fill your lungs. Hold it for just a moment, and now breathe out, letting go of any tension, any noise, any hurry. Let's do that one more time. A deep breath in and a long, slow breath out. There is no rush here. We are not trying to get to a destination quickly. This is not a lecture or a news report. Think of this instead as a journey. A quiet voyage that we will take together, not with speed, but with our imagination. We are preparing for a journey into the deepest parts of space, a journey into the great silent mystery of the night. When you look up on a clear night, what do you truly see? We are taught to see the sky as a roof, a ceiling, a dark vault punctured with little holes that let the light through. We think of it as something above us, separate from our world. But tonight I want to invite you to see it in a different way. I want you to imagine that the night sky is not a ceiling at all. It is an ocean. It is the single largest, deepest and darkest ocean imaginable. It is a cosmic sea, and it stretches in all directions, not just up, but out and down and through everything. It is an ocean of such impossible scale that the water we know on Earth, our own Pacific and Atlantic, would be less than a single drop in comparison. And we are the shore dwellers. We live on a tiny, beautiful, fragile island of rock and water that we call Earth. We are born on this shore, we live our lives on this shore, and we look out from the safety of our beach into that vast, black, endless ocean of night. We are in a very real sense living at the bottom of a sea of stars. For all of human history, we have been a coastal people. We have walked this shoreline gazing out and wondering. And like anyone who lives by the sea, we have grown familiar with its rhythms. We know its local tides and currents. We see the moon, our constant silver companion, pulling at our world, marking the passage of our nights. We see the familiar waves that pass close to our shore. We've given them names: Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn. They are like familiar ships sailing on predictable routes just beyond our little island. We recognize the patterns, the great clusters of stars we call constellations. They are like the distant, steady light dowses that do not move. They mark the changing of our seasons. When Orion rises, we know winter is coming. When the Pleiades appear, we know it is time to plant. These are the familiar sounds and sights of our little stretch of the ocean. They are our solar system. They are the things that belong here with us. The rhythms are predictable, comforting. They are the gentle, steady lapping of the waves on our cosmic shore. But the ocean is by its very nature a thing of mystery. It is a thing of connection. An ocean, after all, as other shores. Faraway beaches perhaps like our own, perhaps impossibly different. And the currents of this great ocean flowing silently through the dark connect all those shores. And so every once in a long while the ocean sends us something new. Imagine standing on your familiar beach. You know every rock, every grain of sand. And one morning you see something new washed up on the shore. It is a piece of wood, but it is not from any tree that grows on your island. It is carved in a way you have never seen. It is made of a material that feels strange to your touch. This is not a local wave. This is not a familiar tide. This is driftwood. A visitor. Something from a different part of the ocean. A piece of another world sent drifting on the currents that has by pure chance washed up on your little patch of sand. The cosmic ocean does this. It sends us visitors from the deep. Objects born not in our sun's family but from the darkness between the stars. They are messengers from other unknown shores hundreds or even thousands of light years away. For the longest time we only suspected these visitors existed. We had never seen one. Then not long ago we saw our first. It was a faint whisper. It was named Oumuamua, a beautiful Hawaiian name that means a messenger from afar. It was a hurried visitor. It was not a familiar round rock. It was long-shaped, perhaps like a cigar or a flat pancake, and it tumbled end over end as it raced through our system. It was in a rush. It did not stop. It just swept past our shore a fleeting hello, and then raced back out into the deep dark ocean from which it came. We were barely left with time to wonder before it was gone. Then a second visitor arrived. We call it Two-Eye Borisov. This one looked more familiar. It had the fuzzy glowing halo of a comet. It had a tail of ice and gas trailing behind it like a comet from our own neighborhood. It was still a visitor, still an alien from another star, but it was a kind of thing we understood. It was like finding a strange piece of driftwood, yes, but one that was clearly recognizably a piece of wood. It was reassuring in its own way. These were the first whispers. the first confirmation that our ocean was indeed connected to other shores. And then came the third visitor, the one we are here to contemplate tonight. This one is different. It is not a hasty tumbling messenger like Oumuamua. It is not a familiar-looking reassuring comet like Tui Borisov. This one is a puzzle. It is a quiet guest that has arrived on our shore, and it is not like anything we have ever seen. It is a piece of driftwood from an unknown sea that is challenging what we thought we knew about the ocean. We call it Three-Eye Atlas, and it has brought with it not answers but questions. Deep, profound and beautiful questions that echo in the silence of that great cosmic sea. Tonight we are not going to rush, we are not going to look for simple labels. We are going to do what the shore dweller does when an impossible object washes up on the beach. We are going to sit with it. We are going to look at it from all sides. We are going to be quiet and we are going to wonder. Tonight we dedicate our time to this mysterious new guest, this Three-Eye Atlas, and the magnificent, strange and wondrous ocean that sent it to our shore. The universe does not announce its arrivals. It does not send messengers ahead or part the curtains of space with a flourish. Its greatest secrets arrive in silence disguised as the mundane. They come as tiny, imperceptible whispers caught only by the most patient and tireless of listeners. While the world sleeps or goes about the bright, loud business of its day, the watchers keep their vigil. They are not solitary figures cloaked in darkness peering through the brass eyepiece of an old telescope. The modern watcher is a network, a complex of machines and algorithms of quiet technicians and graduate students, fueled by coffee and curiosity. High atop the volcanic peaks of Hawaii, the Atlas Observatory is one such watcher. Its robotic eyes do not blink. They do not get tired and they do not get bored. Their sole purpose is to scan the vast dark ocean of the night sky again and again. This is not a romantic hunt for majestic undiscovered worlds. It is a defense measure, a planetary security system. ATLAS stands for Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. Its job is to find the things that might find us, the chunks of rock and ice remnants of our solar system's birth that might one day cross Earth's path. To do this, the observatory takes pictures. It takes a picture of a patch of sky, waits a few minutes and takes another. Then its powerful software performs a simple digital age miracle. It subtracts one image from the other. Everything that is fixed, the distant stars, the far-flung galaxies, vanishes, cancelling itself out. All that remains are the things that have moved, the wanderers. 99.99% of these wanderers are familiar. They are known asteroids ticking along on their predictable orbits. They are new asteroids, fresh discoveries from the main belt between Mars and Jupiter. They are comets falling in from the cold distant edges of our own system, the Oort cloud. The work is a slow, methodical process of cataloguing. A dot moves, it is logged, its path is calculated. It is given a name, a string of letters and numbers, and the observatory moves on. It is a quiet, monumental task of cosmic housekeeping. It was into this routine in the early weeks of 2003 that the new visitor appeared. It was nothing. It was a smudge, a collection of a few faint pixels on a digital sensor barely distinguishable from electronic noise. The automated system flagged it as it had flagged thousands of other objects. An astronomer, perhaps checking the night's data logs, would have seen it. A new entry. Object A223, a temporary name. It was faint, it was moving, and it seemed at first glance to be just another small comet. It was fuzzy, indicating it had a coma, a cloud of gas and dust. This meant it was likely icy. As it got closer to the sun, the ice was turning directly into gas, creating this faint halo. This is classic comet behaviour. So the initial assumption was simple, it was one of ours. A long-period comet, perhaps falling in from the deep freeze of the Oort cloud, a journey that might take it thousands of years to complete. It was interesting, but it was not revolutionary. The system logged it, the information was shared to the Minor Planet Center, and the great eye of Atlas turned to scan the next patch of sky. But in astronomy, no discovery is made by one person alone. The moment the data was shared, other eyes turned toward it. From different mountains in different time zones, other observatories, some professional, some amateur, pointed their instruments at the faint smudge. They had to confirm it. They had to track it. This is where the story began to change. With every new observation, with every new data point, astronomers around the world plotted its path. They traced its journey dot by dot across the background of stars. And the path was wrong. To understand why you have to think about gravity. Our sun is the single most massive thing in our solar system by far. Its gravity is like a vast deep well. Everything in our system, the planets, the asteroids, the comets, is trapped in this well. We are all rolling around inside this gravitational bowl like marbles. A planet like Earth rolls in a near-perfect circle. A comet might roll in a long stretched-out oval, an ellipse. It might fly far out, but eventually the sun's gravity pulls it back. It is in simple terms on a leash. It is bound. It will always return. This new object was not on a leash. As the data piled up, the calculations became more and more certain. The shape of its path was not a circle. It was not an ellipse. The numbers pointed to a different shape, a specific mathematical curve known as a hyperbola. This is the fancy term for a one-way ticket. A hyperbolic orbit means the object is moving too fast. It did not just fall toward the sun, it screamed past it. It was a visitor that had from the very beginning possessed enough speed to escape the sun's grasp. It was not a marble rolling around the inside of the bowl. It was a marble that had been shot from across the room from somewhere else, entirely dipped into the bowl, and had so much energy that it was guaranteed to fly right back out the other side, never to be seen again. It was not from here. This was the moment. It was not a single dramatic revelation. It was a growing powerful consensus that rippled through the scientific community. Emails were exchanged, data was double-checked, models were run and then run again. The conclusion was inescapable. This was not Object A2123, a comet from our backyard. This was an interstellar visitor. It was only the third time in human history that we had ever confirmed such a thing. The first in 2017 was Oumuamua, a strange cigar-shaped tumbling object that baffled everyone. It was mysterious, fast, and gave us no time to study it. The second in 2019 was 2I Borisov, a more normal object that actually looked and behaved like a comet, one that just happened to be from another star. It told us that the building blocks of other solar systems looked a lot like ours. And now this, the third visitor. The feeling in the astronomical community was one of profound significance. The first visitor could have been a fluke. The second proved it was a pattern. But the third confirmed it obeyed the rule. The third meant that these visits were not once-in-a-lifetime events. They are normal. They are happening all the time. We are not isolated. Our solar system is not a contained, protected bubble. We live in an open environment. The vast dark emptiness between the stars is not empty at all. We now understand it as a great cosmic ocean, and in this ocean there are currents. Just as driftwood from one continent can wash up on the shore of another, the driftwood of solar system formation, the comets, the asteroids, the icy fragments left over from the birth of alien planets is drifting through the galaxy. These objects are being thrown out of their own home systems by the gravitational pull of giant planets sent on journeys that last for millions, perhaps billions of years. They are messengers carrying physical samples from other stars. This new streak of light, this faint smudge that Atlas had picked up, was another piece of that driftwood. It was a confirmation that the galaxy is connected. It was a realization that we are part of a larger dynamic and shared cosmos. The quiet work of the watchers, the patient sifting of data, had once again uncovered a fundamental truth about our place in the universe. The ocean was dark and deep, but we were beginning to see the currents that flowed between its islands, and we knew with a sudden thrilling certainty that we would be seeing many, many more. But when we look closer at this visitor, we realize it is not like anything we have ever seen. Its portrait is painted in 7 shades of impossibility, 7 riddles that challenge the very story of our solar system. It begins with its sheer presence. When we first saw it, we measured its size. This was not a small rock. This was a mountain more than 5 kilometers wide, floating silently from the dark. Imagine a peak larger than Mount Fuji or Mount Rainier tumbling end over end through the void. But the size, while impressive, was not the true mystery. The mystery was its weight. As 3 Atlas moved, we watched how its path bent under the pull of the sun. We also watched for something else, the tiny, almost invisible push that a comet gives itself. Comets are icy. As they get close to the sun, that ice turns to gas, shooting out in jets. These jets act like tiny engines pushing the comet around. This is called non-gravitational acceleration. It's how we know a comet is a light, fluffy snowball of ice and dust. We watched 3 Atlas for this push, and we found nothing, almost nothing at all. It barely budged. It flew with a purity that was shocking. Its path was dictated by gravity, and gravity alone. This meant only one thing: it was heavy. It was unreasonably heavy. Our calculations gave us a number that is difficult to comprehend: 33 billion tons. This is not the weight of a dusty snowball. This is the weight of solid rock and metal. This is the weight of a body. This object was so massive, so dense, that any gases streaming from its surface had almost no effect. It was not a visitor in the sense of a light fleeting ghost. It was a visitor in the sense of an ironclad battleship. It glided past unaffected by its own breath as if it were too heavy, too solid. It was the first clue that 3i Atlas was not just another wanderer. It was an artifact of immense substance. And then we looked at where it came from. To understand this, you must picture our solar system as a flat disk. Imagine a giant spinning vinyl record. The Sun is the hole in the middle, and all the planets Earth, Mars, Jupiter are like tiny specks of dust spinning in the grooves. This flat plane is called the ecliptic. Everything in our system, for the most part, stays on this record. Now imagine the space outside our solar system. It is not a flat disk. It is a giant sphere, a three-dimensional darkness in every direction. Objects that visit us from that deep darkness, like comets from the Oort cloud, are not on the record. They fall in from random angles. They come from above the record or below it. They plunge through our system at steep, chaotic angles, like a ball dropped from the ceiling onto the spinning record. That is what a random visitor should do. But 3 Atlas did not do this. It arrived almost perfectly flat at a tiny incline of only 5 degrees. It didn't fall from above or below. It entered our solar system right in our lane. It merged into our cosmic highway as if it had been driving on it all along. The probability of a random interstellar object arriving with such a precise alignment to our own flat plane is staggeringly low. The chances for that are only about 2%. It's like someone throwing a needle from a mile away and having it land perfectly flat in the groove of a spinning record. It's not impossible, but it is convenient. It is an alignment so precise that it makes you pause. It was the second riddle a question of geometry. Why, out of all the infinite paths it could have taken, did it choose the one path that looked just like our own? This, however, was only half of the riddle. The path was one thing, the timing was another. It wasn't just that it entered our lane. It entered our lane at the perfect moment to get a grand tour of our inner system. As it swung past the Sun, its orbit so perfectly aligned was also perfectly timed. Its path was calculated not by us, but by the universe itself, to bring it close to several of our neighbours. It was set for a flyby of Mars. It was angled for a good look at Venus. Its trajectory was even optimised for a gravitational assist from the giant Jupiter. This object didn't just barrel through, it executed a manoeuvre that was, for lack of a better word, efficient. The probability of this happening, by chance getting the 2% orbital alignment and this 1 in a million timing for a multi-planet flyby, is almost zero. The chances for that 0.05%. We must be very careful here. We are scientists. We would not call this intentional, but we must call it strangely efficient. It's as if a tourist arriving in a new country had somehow perfectly calculated the best possible route to visit the most landmarks all in one go. It was a path of maximum observation, a path so optimised it felt less like a random encounter and more like a carefully planned itinerary. The questions were piling up. We had an object that was too heavy on a path, that was too precise with timing, that was too perfect. Naturally, we turned our most powerful tools upon it. We wanted to know what it was made of. We do this with something called spectroscopy. It is a beautiful and simple idea. You look at the light coming from an object, a star, or in this case a comet. You pass that light through a prism. The light splits into a rainbow, a spectrum. But this rainbow has dark lines in it, or bright lines. These lines are a chemical fingerprint. Every element, every molecule sings in the light at a specific frequency. Water sings one song, iron sings another. We pointed our spectroscopes at 3 Atlas as it began to warm up. We were looking for one song above all others, the song of water. Water H2O is the signature of comets. It is the signature of life as we know it. We expected to see vast clouds of water vapour, the breath of a normal comet. Instead, we found something else. We found carbon dioxide. Not just a little, a lot. This object was breathing out a different gas. The signature of water was faint, almost an afterthought. The dominant screaming signature was so too. This is the gas that makes up dry ice. This was a profound shock. It meant this visitor was not born in a place like our solar system where water ice is plentiful. It was born in a place that was perhaps much colder or had a different chemical recipe. It was built from different materials. It was a dry ice comet, not a water ice comet. Its entire chemical foundation was alien to us. It came from a place that was formed in a different way. This changed the story of its origin. It was not one of ours, but the strangest fingerprint was yet to come. As the object got closer, we were able to read the signatures of the heavier elements, the metals within its dust. And this is where the mystery deepened into something truly bizarre. In the universe, there is a golden rule of chemistry. This rule is forged in the hearts of dying stars in the supernovae that seed the cosmos with heavy elements. The rule is this: iron is always dominant. Iron is the most stable element. It is the end point of fusion. For every atom of a heavy metal like nickel, you will find many atoms of iron. In our solar system, in meteorites in the cores of planets, iron is king. Nickel is its companion, but always in a much smaller quantity. That is the natural ratio. We looked at the signature from 3E Atlas. The ratio was wrong, it was backward. In this object, nickel was more abundant than iron. This is something that, as far as we know, just does not happen in nature. It is like finding a river that flows uphill. It is like finding a tree that grows with its roots in the air. The ratio was reversed. There is only one place where we ever see ratios like this. We see it in the laboratories and factories on our own planet. We see it in the high-tech man-made industrial alloys that we create. We mix metals in these unnatural ratios to build things with specific properties. Materials we build to be strong to resist heat to last. To find this signature in an object from interstellar space is perhaps the single strangest piece of data we have ever collected. It was a chemical composition that looked manufactured, and then 3E Atlas gave us one last baffling performance. As I mentioned, comets have tails. These tails are beautiful, but they are simple. The sun emits a constant solar wind, a stream of particles. This wind pushes the gas and dust away from the comet, so the tail always points directly away from the sun. It doesn't matter which way the comet is moving. The tail is a windsock telling you where the sun is. 3E Atlas, true to form, began to develop a normal tail pointing away from the sun. But then it did something else. Something that at first we thought was an error in our instruments. A second feature appeared, a new glow. This glow was not pointing away from the sun, it was pointing forward along its own path. It was like a headlight. This forward-facing jet appeared before the main tail even formed. It was a focused stream of material shooting out into the direction it was travelling. This behaviour is physically difficult to explain. A headlight is one analogy, but there is another more powerful one. When a spacecraft wants to slow down to enter orbit around a planet, it fires its engines forward against its direction of travel. It is a braking manoeuvre. 3E Atlas appeared to be braking. This jet was not a random puff of gas. It was directional, it was energetic, and it was in exactly the wrong place to be natural. It was an object that seemed to be actively controlling, or at least altering its own trajectory. It was fighting its own momentum as it plunged into our solar system. This collection of 7 riddles, the impossible weight, the aligned path, the perfect timing, the alien breath, the unnatural metal, and the forward-facing brake paints a portrait of an object that defies every category we have. But there is one final piece. An echo. A ghost in the machine that connects this visitor to one of the greatest mysteries of our time. In Mib-77, astronomers at the Big Ear Radio Telescope in Ohio were scanning the skies listening for any sign of intelligent life. On a quiet August night, the telescope received a signal. It was a powerful narrowband burst of radio energy that lasted for 72 seconds. It was so strong, so clear, and so perfectly matched to what we think an artificial beacon would look like that the astronomer monitoring the data, Dr. Jerry Eman, circled the reading on the printout and wrote a single word in the margin, "Wow." We have never been able to explain the wow signal. We pointed our telescopes back to that patch of sky. We found nothing. It was a shout from the cosmos that came once and then fell silent. It has haunted us for decades, and now here in our present we track the path of 3E Atlas, back out into the deep dark, back to the place it came from. We trace its origins. It comes from that exact same corner of the sky. This is not per proof, it is not a conclusion, but it is a coincidence so haunting, so profound, that it makes the hair on your arm stand up. Our greatest unexplained radio anomaly and our greatest unexplained physical object, both originating from the same small window in the constellation Sagittarius. This is the portrait of 3E Atlas, a 5-kilometer mountain of industrial-grade metal-breathing carbon dioxide breaking as it enters our system on a perfect grand tour trajectory and arriving with an echo of a ghost. Our journey now takes us to a place that is already the domain of silence, the 4th planet from the sun, the ancient god of war, Mars. The date is October 3rd, 2025. The red planet hangs in the blackness, a cold, rusty beacon. It is a world of breathtaking, majestic desolation. a planet of iron oxide where the dust of ages rests in deep canyons and across vast frozen plains. It is a world where the wind is the only voice, a thin, high-pitched whisper scouring billion-year-old rocks. It is a graveyard of geology, a museum of the solar system's past. But it is not unwatched. It is in fact one of the most scrutinized pieces of real estate in the solar system. We have our eyes there. Our robotic pioneers, our extensions of consciousness, spin in the cold, thin orbit above it. They are the eyes of humanity. There is NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, the MRO. It is a masterpiece of engineering equipped with the most powerful telescopic camera ever sent to another planet. It has been mapping Mars for almost 2 decades, spotting features as small as a coffee table from hundreds of kilometers up. Its job is to look for water for history for landing sites. There is the European Space Agency's Mars Express, the Veteran. It has been in orbit since 2003 using radar to probe beneath the surface, hunting for liquid water and analysing the wispy thin atmosphere. And there is the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, another ESA mission. Its incredibly sensitive nose sniffs the atmosphere, searching for tiny trace amounts of gases like methane that could hint at active geology or even life. These orbiters, these loyal patient servants of science, are our proxies. They are our hands and eyes millions of miles from home, dutifully executing commands sent from Earth. They are the most advanced observation tools we have, and they are parked right next to the cosmic highway that 3i Atlas is currently speeding down. On this day, October the 3rd, all these incredible machines, these multi-billion-dollar wonders of human curiosity, were turned away from the rusty dust of the planet below. They were pointed up, outward, into the blackness of deep space. Back on Earth, the atmosphere was electric. Not with fear, not with panic, but with a crackling global anticipation. This was the moment, the flyby. The object, this enigma from interstellar space, was making its closest approach to the red planet. This was our best chance. Think of it, trying to see it from Earth was like trying to photograph a fly in another city using binoculars. But this was like standing on the side of the road as the fly zooms past 6 inches from your face. The Mars orbiters were getting a front row seat. We were finally going to get a clear look. The data from these orbiters travelling at the speed of light would give us the answer. The entire scientific world held its breath. In control rooms at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory at ESA's Operations Center in Germany, scientists and engineers stared at their monitors. The pings of telemetry were the only sounds. The questions echoed in every lab, in every university, in every mind that looked up at the stars. What will we see? Was it just a rock? A silent tumbling piece of debris from a long-dead solar system? An interstellar asteroid, just as the first blurry images suggested, a fascinating but ultimately natural object? Was it a mountain? A massive jagged shard of another world? A colossal piece of nitrogen ice? Perhaps like a chunk of Pluto sent wandering across the galaxy? Or, as the hushed, unspoken whisper in the back of every single mind dared to ask, was it something else? This was not about fuzzy dots of light anymore. This was high resolution. This was data from spectrometers. We were going to see its shape. We were going to see its texture. We were going to measure its temperature. We were going to see finally what this visitor truly was. The flyby was scheduled to occur over a period of several hours. The orbiters would track it, capture it, and then, in the hours following, they would reorient their antennas toward Earth and begin the slow, steady process of downloading the radar. The streams of ones and zeros, the raw language of the universe, would travel across the vast emptiness, taking minutes to cross the gap between the planets. The first sings of data confirmation arrived. Signal lock acquired, telemetry nominal, data downlink in progress. The data was flowing, it was arriving on Earth. The orbiters had seen it, they had captured history. The world leaned in. We waited for the press release. We waited for that first grainy black and white image that would soon be followed by the high-resolution full-colour version. We waited for the scientist to step up to the podium, clear his or her throat and say the words, "We have seen it, and this is what it is." And then what we received was silence. It was not the static of a lost signal. It was not an error code. It was not a mission failure announcement. It was something far stranger and far more unsettling. It was nothing. The live blogs from the space agencies went static. The updates stopped. The NASA TV feed scheduled for a special report reverted to its standard programming. The ESA portal showed a picture of Mars. The press conferences were one by one postponed indefinitely. At first, the world was confused. Was there a delay? A data processing error? But the hours turned into a day, and the day turned into 2, and the silence, it held. Let us be very clear, we are not going to sit here and talk about conspiracies. That is the easy path. That is the low-hanging fruit for a mind that does not want to do the hard work of thinking. They are hiding it from us. This is a story for children. No, we are going to talk about something much more important. We are going to talk about the weight of this silence. The silence of NASA and the silence of the European Space Agency. It was not empty. It was the opposite. It was heavy. It was a silence that was full. It was perhaps the loudest sound in human history. It was full of question. Think about the culture of these organizations. Think about what they do. Their entire purpose, their entire reason for existing is to discover and to share. These are organizations built on data, on peer review, on publication. They live for the wow moment. They send robots to drill into rocks, and they broadcast the chemical analysis live. They take pictures of distant swirling galaxies and release them to the public before the scientists even finish their analysis, just so the world can share in the beauty. They live to tell us what they have found. For these people, these passionate, brilliant public-facing scientists and engineers to suddenly go quiet. At the exact moment of their greatest potential discovery, this is not procedural, this is profound. A silence like that means something. It means the answer they received was not one of the simple ones. If it was just a rock they would have shown us, they would have been thrilled. Look at this, a 400-meter wide interstellar asteroid. Look at the craters on its surface, look at its rotation. This is a historic day for planetary science. They would have held a 3-hour press conference. If it was a mountain, a round tumbling piece of cosmic ice, they would have been ecstatic. Look at the nitrogen jets. It's an exotic comet, unlike anything we have ever seen. Its composition tells us about the star system it came from. The fact that they said nothing means the answer they received did not fit the multiple choice questions they had prepared. It was a silence that spoke of confusion, or perhaps of awe, or perhaps of a deep, sudden and terrifying responsibility. It was the silence of a person who has just picked up a phone expecting to hear a friend, and has instead heard a voice they cannot comprehend speaking a language they do not know, but in a tone that is unmistakable. Imagine the scientist, the first one to open that file, a young postdoctoral student probably, or a senior analyst. They have calibrated the image, they have run the filters, they open the file. They are expecting a rock, they are expecting a blurry shape. But what if what they see is not ambiguous at all? What if the image that resolved on their screen was something that broke the context of everything they knew? Not a maybe, not a this is interesting, but an oh my goodness. What if the object was not tumbling? What if it was stable? What if it had features? What if the spectrometer data, the chemical analysis of the light bouncing off it, showed elements that were manufactured? This was. It is the sound of a paradigm shifting. It is the sound of every textbook on Earth suddenly becoming obsolete. It is the sound of 1,000 movie scripts becoming real. It is the sound of humanity's front door, a door we thought was locked suddenly, opening, and we are not sure who or what is on the other side. Of course, the official channels, when they were finally forced to comment by the global demand, gave reasons. Gentle, plausible, and perfectly logical reasons. Science takes time, and this is true, it does. Data needs to be processed, it needs to be calibrated, it needs to be verified. This is also true. You must be certain, you cannot make a mistake with data like this. We must be thorough, we cannot rush to judgment, the scientific method must be respected. All of this is correct, all of this is the responsible scientific and proper thing to say. But the days turned into a week. The processing of an image does not take a week, not in this age, not for a first look. The calibration of a spectrometer reading does not take a week. They could give us the raw data, they could give us something. This felt different. This was not the silence of processing, this was the silence of deliberation. Or perhaps what they saw was too different, too ambiguous. What if the object was active? What if it was emitting something, a radio signal, a heat pattern that made no sense? What if it was changing? How do you announce that? How do you announce something that you cannot yourself explain? To announce that would be irresponsible. Or there is the other possibility, the one that chills the bone. What if it was too clear? What if the image showed beyond any shadow of a doubt something that was not natural, something that was artificial? How do you announce something that could change everything? What is the protocol for that? Seriously think about it. Is there a folder in a locked cabinet at the White House or the United Nations labelled Procedure for First Contact? What words do you use? How do you tell 7 billion people we are not alone without causing global panic? How do you say it without destroying economies, without starting wars? How do you say it without sounding insane? Or perhaps more complex still, what if the object was clear but dead, a relic, a billion-year-old ship tumbling with no one on board? How do you explain that? How do you handle the philosophical and religious implications of a tomb floating past Mars? The weight of that responsibility is unimaginable. It stops being science. It becomes statesmanship, it becomes philosophy. It becomes a burden that no single organization would want to carry. So they were silent. They were deliberating. They were checking and rechecking. And perhaps they were arguing about what to say, about how to say it. And while the great orbiters above the powerful high-resolution eyes of humanity remained silent, our other eyes, the ones on the ground, were also looking up. The Perseverance rover, our little robotic geologist drilling rocks in Jezero crater. It has a sky cam. It is not a powerful telescope. It is a simple camera meant for looking at Martian clouds at dust devils at the tiny moons Phobos and Deimos. But on October 3rd, it was looking for 3i Atlas. And it saw it. An image was posted, not on the main channels. It appeared on a secondary public-facing data server, a place where raw, uncalibrated images are sometimes dumped. It was probably an automated process, and it was just as quickly taken down. But not before it was copied, not before it was screenshotted and spread everywhere. It was a Vetmo, just a blur. It was nothing. A few pale pixels, a streak of light, against the faint pale orange Martian sky. It was a smudge. It was so faint, so disappointing that it could have been anything. A cosmic ray, a camera glitch. But it was everything, because that blur, that smudge, it confirmed one thing beyond all doubt. It was there. It confirmed the object passed Mars exactly as predicted, exactly at that time. It was not a glitch, it was real. And that blur, it did not answer any questions, just made the silence from the orbiters all the more deafening. Because if Perseverance, our little ground-based rover, with its simple weather-watching camera, could catch that blur, then what did the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter see? What did that billion-dollar high-powered telescopic eye see? The camera so powerful it can see a dinner plate on the Martian surface. What did it see when it looked at a 400-meter wide object flying past right in front of it? It did not see a blur. The orbiters, they definitely saw it. They saw it better. They saw it in high resolution. They saw it in detail. That blur from Perseverance was the proof. It was the receipt. It confirmed that the package had been delivered, that the data was captured, and the agencies that possessed that data were silent. The silence continued. The world waited. The data sat on a server, a digital bomb waiting, and humanity, for the first time, was forced to sit in the quiet and just wonder. When a great mystery presents itself to us, the human mind cannot let it be. We are not built to accept a void. We are pattern seekers, storytellers and explainers. When we look up at the night sky and see something that should not be there, something moving too fast, shining in the wrong way, or coming from an impossible direction, our brains ignite. We must, as a fundamental part of our nature, find an explanation. This is not a choice. It is a compulsion. It is the same engine that drove our ancestors to understand fire, to map the seasons, and to cross the oceans. Faced with a true unknown, a mystery that touches the very edge of our understanding, our collective mind often splits. It divides itself not into right and wrong, but into two different ways of seeking an answer. One path is lit by the comforting lamps of what we already know. The other path leads into the dark, guided only by a flickering match of what we dare to imagine. The first path is the path of natural explanation. This is the foundation of good science. It is the voice of reason that tells us to be patient, to gather more data, and to first test the answers that fit within our known laws of the universe. This path is trod with respect because it has served us well for centuries. Looking at this strange visitor from deep space, the scientists on this path offer logical, powerful, and deeply fascinating ideas. Perhaps one group suggests this object is a fragment from the very heart, the core of a planet that died billions of years ago. This idea is staggering in its own right. It paints a picture of a solar system somewhere far away that lived and died. A system where a planet, perhaps one like Earth or Mars, was shattered by a long ago cosmic collision. All its outer layers were stripped away, leaving only its dense metallic center to tumble through space. For eons, this planetary tombstone traveled a ghost of a dead world until it just so happened to pass through our tiny neighborhood. This would explain why it might be made of metal, why it shines as it does, and why it has no fuzzy cloud of gas and ice, no coma like a common comet. It is not a comet, it is a piece of ancient wreckage. Another group offers a different, equally compelling idea. Perhaps, they say, it comes from a star system with a bizarre and alien chemistry, a place unlike anything we have in our own solar family. We assume that the universe makes things roughly the same way everywhere, but we have only truly studied one star system, our own. What if around a different kind of star things are made differently? What if objects can form that are made of pure hydrogen frozen solid like an iceberg, or perhaps an iceberg made of pure nitrogen? Such an object entering our solar system would behave strangely. As it warmed, the frozen hydrogen or nitrogen would turn to gas and push the object, making it speed up, but it would be invisible to our telescopes. It would look like a bare rock being pushed by a mysterious force. The possibilities are endless. Maybe it is a cosmic dust bunny, a clump of matter pressed together in the strange cold space between stars. Maybe it is a shrapnel fragment from a star that exploded a supernova, casting its insides across the galaxy. The scientists who follow this path remind us correctly that nature is always more creative than we imagine. The universe on its own has produced spinning stars called pulsars that blink like lighthouses, and clouds of alcohol floating in space that are large enough to make trillions of drinks. A strange rock is not the strangest things it is capable of. These natural explanations are not boring. They are epic tales of cosmic history, violence, and creation. They are the safe harbour of our reason. But then there is the other path. This second path is darker, quieter, and far more unsettling. It begins not with an answer, but with a question, a courageous question. It is the path of the unnatural. This is the path taken by people like Avi Loeb, a scientist who looked at the data and dared to ask, what if this is not random? This question is not presented as a fact, it is not an assertion of belief, it is a hypothesis, a starting point for an investigation that we are perhaps afraid to begin. It asks us to look at the mounting list of strange things, the coincidences, and wonder at what point they stop being coincidences at all. When does a coincidence become a pattern? When does a pattern become evidence? Let us look at what we are being asked to accept. First, there is the object's path. It did not just drift in. Its orbit was strange, precise. It moved in a way that seemed almost efficient. It travelled on a plane, the flat disk where all our planets live, which is a very small target in the vastness of space. Second, there is the timing. It arrived now, not 1,000 years ago before we had telescopes when it would have passed unseen. Not 100 years from now. It arrived precisely in the tiny window of human history when we finally have the technology pointed at the sky ready to see it. What are the chances of that? Third, there is its behaviour and its chemistry. It did not act like a comet. It did not act like an asteroid. It was bright metallic, and it seemed to accelerate to speed up as it left our system, pushed by a force other than the sun's gravity. A natural explanation like the invisible hydrogen gas is possible, but another explanation is that it was being pushed by sunlight itself like a light sail, a thin, wide artificial object designed to travel that way. And fourth, there is the other great mystery that echoes this one, the wow signal. Decades ago, a radio telescope listening to the heavens picked up a stunning, powerful and intelligent-seeming burst of energy. It came from a blank patch of sky. It lasted for 72 seconds, a perfect narrowband signal that looked exactly like what we would expect an artificial interstellar hello to look like. We pointed our telescopes back, but we never heard it again. It was a single shocking whisper in the dark. The courageous question asks us to put these pieces together. The strange object, the strange signal, the strange timing, the strange chemistry. When do coincidences stop being coincidences? When do we stop trying to invent a dozen different complex natural explanations for a dozen different strange events? And instead consider one simple unnatural explanation that fits them all. The question is this: what if this is not debris? What if this is a message? What if the object is a piece of technology, a probe, a buoy, or even a piece of trash from a civilization that is or was out there? What if the wow signal was its announcement? This path is frightening because it changes everything. But before we dismiss it as fantasy, we should pause and take a long, hard look in the mirror. We should ask ourselves what we would do. In fact, we should ask ourselves what we have already done. If we, humanity, wanted to send a message to the stars, what would it look like? Would it be a random tumbling rock? No, We would build something, we would design it. It would look like our Voyager probes. Decades ago, we built 2 spacecraft, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, and launched them on a grand tour of our solar system. They are now at this very moment flying in the dark, cold emptiness between the stars. They are the fastest things humanity has ever made. And we did something beautiful with them. We attached a message. We sent our own messages in a bottle. On the side of each Voyager probe there is a golden record. It is a disc plated in gold to protect it from the erosion of space for 1 billion years. On it we etched sounds and images of our world. The sound of a baby crying, the sound of rain, and the sound of whales. We included music from all of our cultures, and we included greetings in 55 different languages, a single voice saying hello to the cosmos on behalf of our entire planet. We even put a map on the cover, a diagram showing a distant finder, where our sun is located using the blinking of pulsars as a guide. We did this. We, a young species on a small planet, are already littering the galaxy with our art, our music and our maps. We fill our atmosphere with radio waves, television broadcasts and radar signals every second of every day's signals that are right now washing over nearby stars. So if we are already sending probes, if we are already sending signals, if we are already sending messages in bottles, why is it so unbelievable, so unscientific to ask if this strange object, this strange signal might be someone else's? Perhaps this visitor is not a message but just their version of our Voyager, a silent explorer that has been travelling for 1 million years, its mission long over its creators, perhaps long gone. This is why this mystery has become so large. It has grown too big to be contained by any single field of study. The question has escaped the quiet, lonely observatories on mountaintops. It has moved beyond the chalkboards of university physics departments. This mystery has transcended science. It has touched the hallways of power. Government officials, senators and world leaders have begun to ask questions, committees have been formed, reports have been commissioned. This is not because they are worried about an invasion or because they have some secret information. It is because they too are human. They understand that this is not just a question about astronomy. It is a question about humanity. This object and the questions it forces us to ask holds up a mirror to our entire civilization. It touches the most basic, fundamental and terrifying question we have ever been able to ask. It is the question that whispers in the back of our minds when we look up at the limitless silent stars. Who are we, and are we alone? And so this traveller, this whisper from another star, continues its journey. Its story with us is not quite over. It is still moving silently through the dark. It is heading for a very important appointment. The next great chapter in its voyage will be in January 2026. This is when it will reach what we call perihelion, that is the simple term for its closest point to our sun. Imagine that. After a journey of perhaps millions of years sailing through the unbelievable cold and dark of interstellar space, this object is about to fly close to a star. Our star. For the first time in ages, it will feel real warmth. The sun's light, our light, will fall on its surface. It will be warmed, and perhaps will reveal more of its secrets. This is the moment astronomers are waiting for. As it warms up, any hidden ice or frozen gases could turn into a cloud or tail, giving us a clue. Its surface, lit brightly by our sun, might show us its true shape, its spin, its colour. We will be watching with every telescope we have. This is our last best look. It is our final chance to ask the object, what are you, where did you come from? And maybe, just maybe, it will finally give us an answer. We will see if it is just a strange rock, a piece of an ancient comet or something else. But perhaps the answer isn't as important as the question. Think about what it means to be human. We are creatures who build boxes, we love to label things, we want everything to be neat and tidy. We see something new and our first instinct is to ask, what is it? We want to file it away, to say, I understand this, and then move on. We want the mystery to be solved so we can stop thinking about it. We want an answer. But 3i Atlas, whatever it is, has given us a different kind of gift. It is a gift that doesn't fit in any of our boxes. It refuses to be labelled easily. It has forced us to stop, to look up, to wonder. In our modern lives, we are so busy. We look down, we look at our screens, at our phones, at the work on our desks, at the pavement in front of us. Our minds are filled with lists, with worries, with plans for tomorrow, with regrets from yesterday. The world feels small, defined by our problems and our schedules. Then this object came. It came from the outside. It came from a place so far away that our minds cannot even hold the distance. And for a moment, millions of us, you, lifted our gaze. We stopped thinking about the electric bill or what to make for dinner, and we thought about the cosmos. We thought about the what if. What if we are not alone? What if the universe is stranger than we think? What if there are pieces of other worlds, other star systems floating right past our window? This is the gift of contemplation. It is the gift of being forced to pause and just think. It is a return to that feeling we all had as children when we looked at the sky and felt a sense of pure awe. 3 Eyesight Atlas broke through the noise of our daily lives and handed us a moment of pure, beautiful mystery. And with that mystery comes another gift, the gift of humility. It reminds us that the universe is vast, strange, and more ancient than we can possibly imagine. We live on our little blue and white planet and we think it is the center of everything. We think our history a few thousand years is such a long time. We think our problems are the biggest problems. 3R Atlas teaches us otherwise. It is a messenger from the vast. It has traveled for a time that makes a human lifetime seem like the blink of an eye. It came from a star system that we will probably never see. It reminds us that our solar system is just one tiny home on a street full of billions of other homes, and this object just drifted past our house. It is a messenger from the strange. It doesn't look like our asteroids. It doesn't act like our comets. It challenges our theories. It shows us that our rules of how the universe works might just be the local rules, and that the cosmos is filled with things we do not have words for, things we have not even dreamed of. And it is a messenger from the ancient. This object might be older than our Earth. It might have formed when our sun itself was just a baby. It is a piece of history from before our history even began. This is humility. It is the understanding that we are small, but small does not mean unimportant. It means we're connected to something incredible. We are not the entire story, we are just one chapter, and that is a beautiful, freeing thing to realize. And now, as that visitor continues its journey into the darkness, as it flies past our sun and begins its long, lonely trip back into the void between the stars, let those questions that gave you lull you to sleep. Let this not be a feeling of anxiety. It is easy to feel scared of the vast dark ocean of space, but that is not the gift. The gift is wonder. It is the peace of knowing that we are a part of a great mysterious story, a story that is so much bigger than us. You do not need to have the answers. You do not need to know what 3-Eye Atlas is. You just need to know that it is. You are a part of the same universe that made it. You are a part of the cosmos that woke up and is able to look at itself and wonder. Let that deep, quiet mystery be a comfort. Let it be a soft blanket. The universe is full of secrets, and that is not a problem to be solved. It is a beauty to be felt. Let the silence of that long, slow journey match the rhythm of your own breathing. Let go of the day. Let go of the need to know everything. Rest and dream of the stars. Good night.